What's up, everyone? A few weeks back, we told you how Falcon became Captain America in the comics, but he's not the only good friend of Steve Rogers to take up Cap's mantle. Bucky Barnes, Rogers' original sidekick, beat Falcon to it by a few years. So today, I'm going to tell you how Captain America's former sidekick, turned Russian assassin, eventually ended up becoming the Star-Spangled Hero himself. But before we dive in, we want to make you guys aware of some changes we're making to the show. First, this past Monday was our last variant live, at least in that format. This is because we are actually in the process of developing some brand new content for you guys that we hope to be able to officially announce later this summer. In addition to that, we are working hard to increase the volume of content we bring you guys on a weekly basis. So to make room for that, we are officially shifting our episode posting schedule to Thursdays and Sundays. As we've said on the show many times, we're always working to make the show bigger and better for you guys, and we've got some really fun new things lined up in the coming months. But with that covered, let's take a look at how James Bucky Barnes became Captain America. It all started back in 2005 with the 5th volume of the Captain America series, with a string of stories written by Ed Brubaker. But before we start with that, we have to take a look at what happened to Bucky all those decades ago. Towards the end of World War II, during a mission, Captain America and Bucky raced down a bomb-carrying plane on a motorcycle in hopes to jump on it and disarm it. Cap tried, but only Bucky was able to grab the plane. As Steve was falling, he told Bucky let go, saying it might be booby-trapped. Bucky, still hanging onto the plane, said, "You're right, Cap, I see the fuse. It's gonna blow." As he said this, the bomb went off, with Cap screaming while falling, "Bucky!" It exploded. Bucky's gone. With Bucky now gone, Cap didn't care if he lived or died and fell into the water off the coast of Newfoundland, where he sank to the bottom of the ocean like a rock and must have been frozen in an ice floe and remained in suspended animation for years until he was found by Eskimos, who thought he was a supernatural object. Eventually, he was found and thought out by the Avengers. As for Bucky, well, he died and his body was never found, or so we were led to believe for decades. And this is what brings us to Ed Brubaker's incredible run on Captain America. Issue 8 is what kicks off part 1 of the Winter Soldier story arc, and where we learn what really happened to Bucky all those years ago. As I mentioned, we were originally led to believe that Bucky had died, but in this story we learned that he survived the fall and he was found by the Soviets frozen but alive. And he did not die! The full story goes like this. Back in 1945, an experimental Soviet spy submarine was crossing the English Channel when it intercepted a German transmission claiming that they just blew up Captain America over the Channel Islands. The captain asked how far they were from said Channel Islands. Finding out they weren't that far, the sub quickly charted the depths in search of Captain America's body. They eventually found it and brought the body on board. There was only one major problem. Once they put the tattered body that was missing an arm on the examination table, they realized that it wasn't Captain America, with one Russian crew member saying, "It's not Captain America. What is this, Karpov?" To which he says, "It's hope, my friend, for the future." Soon after, Karpov identified the subject as James Buchanan Barnes, as he apparently once saw Bucky in action and believes that, like his partner Captain America, he has the much rumored super soldier serum frozen inside his veins. So because of this, Bucky is very valuable to the Russians. But man, are they going to be in for a shock, because spoiler, he doesn't have the super soldier serum frozen inside his veins. Anyway, the Soviets slowly increased the temperature to thaw out his tissues. After administering electricity, CPR, and adrenaline directly into his heart, Bucky was brought back from the dead. However, Bucky suffered from brain damage and has no memory of his previous life, but he retained all of his muscle memory, meaning he still has amazing agility as well as all of his fighting skills. He also still has the ability to speak 4 different languages, thankfully one of them being Russian, but he still had no clue how he knew all of this. As the Russian scientist said, he is nearly a blank slate, but an incredibly dangerous one, so they keep him sedated while running further tests. After 2 weeks of work and a crap ton of blood tests, they still can't find a single trace of any additives or super soldier serum in his system. So after much discussion with Comrade Karpov, they decided to put Bucky back in stasis. It was during this time the KGB decided to go a different route with Bucky and gave Department X clearance to fit him with a highly advanced cybernetic arm, marking the start of Project Winter Soldier. This all happened because of a letter written by Major General Karpov, with some of it reading as follows. "It has long been my plan to turn this American symbol back against our enemies. He was no aid to developing our own super soldiers, but he will still be a valuable tool in the right hands." After fitting him with a highly advanced cybernetic arm, they began mental implantation to reprogram his mind and make him loyal to no one but the Soviets, which was easy for them considering Bucky had already suffered from memory loss. Once his mind was rewritten, they began training him for their field missions as a spy assassin, and because he exudes America with every breath, his enemies will never see him coming. After many tests and training, he was given the codename Winter Soldier. He was then sent out on spy missions to blend in with his surroundings and assassinate various Cold War power players. He would go on successful missions for them for 15 years, and when the Winter Soldier was not on a mission, he was kept in a cryogenic state to keep his mind from learning the truth. And as a result of the cryogenic stasis, he only aged a few years. One day after a mission, Winter Soldier decided not to go to his extraction point and instead decided to go on the run and into hiding for quite some time before eventually being caught by the Russians. When asked why he ran from them, he had no answers for his conduct or memories of his time out of control. Because of this, Winter Soldier was ultimately placed back in stasis, keeping his mind from learning the truth with other abandoned Department X projects. Long story short, Steve Rogers would recover secret files revealing to him Bucky is still alive and is in fact the Winter Soldier. Sometime after this, under the orders of Lucan, Winter Soldier is told to get the newly obtained Cosmic Cube to a safe location. Captain America eventually tracks down and confronts the Winter Soldier and gains control of the Cosmic Cube, and then uses it on the Winter Soldier, telling Bucky, "Remember who you are." Well, Bucky remembers, but becomes overwhelmed by guilt over all the people he's killed, crushing the Cosmic Cube and teleporting away. He reappears shortly after in London, where he helps Captain America fight off a terrorist attack. Now, I know what you're saying by now, but what about Bucky as Captain America? All you've been talking about is him as Winter Soldier. But remember, this episode is how Bucky becomes Captain America, and all this is leading to how. Also, we're almost there. During the Civil War storyline, the first one, not the horrible second one, Winter Soldier helps Fury plan the escape of an arrested Steve Rogers. Before the plan can be implemented, however, Rogers is shot and killed by a sniper. A few issues after Rogers' death, Tony Stark receives a letter that Steve Rogers had left him asking Stark to watch over Bucky, and that the Captain America mantle should continue. A part of it says, "America needs a Captain America, maybe now more than ever. Don't let the dream die," along with asking Tony to save Bucky from himself. So after a brief fight between Iron Man and Bucky, since Bucky thinks Iron Man is responsible for Rogers' death, the two finally talk things out. Stark then suggested that Bucky should become the new Captain America. And after Bucky reads the note Steve left Tony, Barnes agrees, but only on two conditions. One, he probes his mind and does whatever he has to make sure no one else can ever control him again. And two, he won't answer to Tony Stark or anyone else, as Steve didn't, and neither will he. So he undergoes the testing to make sure his mind is clear, and once it is, he becomes the new Captain America and gets an awesome new costume. Bucky would be Captain America for over 30 issues of the Captain America series, which was pretty cool. Then in the Feared Self storyline, Bucky is apparently killed by Sin. But shocker, he actually survived because he had been injected with the Infinity Formula. With the world believing Bucky is dead, he returned to his old identity of the Winter Soldier to perform covert jobs behind the scenes. And obviously, Steve Rogers didn't actually die and takes back the mantle of Captain America. But there you have it, friends. That is how Bucky became Captain America and the events leading up to it. But I want to know, which alternate Captain America do you like better? Bucky Barnes or Sam Wilson? Let us know in the comment section below. First up for Wednesday, June 12th, we have Star Wars Age of Rebellion Darth Vader 1. Darth Vader is the most feared man in the galaxy, but to some powerful members of the Empire, he's just the Emperor's apprentice. Now we have the Immortal Hulk issue 19. Something is coming for Bruce Banner, something that can smell him wherever he hides, something that will never stop hunting. Here we have the Flash 72. The Flash year 1 continues. Things are not looking pretty for the Flash, who just got his scarlet butt handed to him by the Turtle. And finally, we have the Batman Who Laughs issue 6. If you love Batman as much as I do, you have to check out this series. The Batman Who Laughs is easily one of the coolest characters created by DC in the last decade. And that's gonna bring another episode of Ant to a close. But remember, you can follow us on social media like our Twitter, our Facebook, and Instagram. Links for those are in the description. And if you like the channel, be sure to subscribe by hitting the subscribe button and then the bell so you get all of our notifications. But I'll see you guys next time when I talk about all things comics.